the criminal element of AI not just take off.
Yeah. Well, to start, I try to be a realist about these things. I don't think that technology is the solution to all problems, but I also don't think it's the source of all problems either. I think that, right now we've experienced some moral panic in AI, and we experienced some moral panic in Web3 too. I think there are a lot of people who look at Web3 and they see in tokens, for example, a new way for people to speculate or a new way for criminals to avoid law enforcement, right? And with AI, they see a technology that is going to wipe out jobs and is going to rob us of our humanness, and it's going to create an existential crisis for humanity. There's always some truth in both of those things, right? It's not that those concerns should be dismissed, but I do think that when it comes to AI, there is a real concern that this technology can be wielded in a way that can undermine individuals, especially creators. For a very long time, technology has been a tailwind for people who work in creative industries. There was a period in time in the Middle Ages when they had to rely on the patronage of wealthy individuals like, the Medici clan. But industrial technology, the printing press, the lithograph, the LP, made it possible that you could create something and actually sell it to a mass market. You could free yourself from the bondage of patrons. And, in the 20th century, we had an environment where creators, like musicians, for example, could earn a decent living from royalties earned from the sale of records and CDs. So more recently, technology's got a bit more of a checkered track record, right? So the internet took this thing that was was an asset, a CD, you had to go out and buy it, whatever, and turned it into a free commodity, right? It was put through the printing press of the web, and you could just get a copy of it from somewhere illegal or whatever. And that created the need for new kinds of intermediaries to create order, and that's where we got streaming platforms like Apple and Spotify. But the upshot is that today creators make less than they did 30, 40 years ago for the same amount of output. And then now you've got AI, which is saying, we're going to basically, I don't know, in the case of screenwriters, we'll get the AI to write a script using your, in the voice of, whoever, and then you can go and polish it up, and we'll pay you a one-time fee of $20,000 to polish it up. But you're not going to be the author of that work. You're not going to earn royalties from that work, and that's how most people in creative industries get paid. It's like the iceberg. There's, for every Taylor Swift and Margot Robbie, there are thousands of people just working to get by, in any industry. So I don't know that there is a solution, but I'll give you a couple of examples. So one of the things that creators are really worried about is that their creative work going into a large language model is going to create some output where they're not going to get fairly compensated. Well, there are platforms around that try to basically take creative content and watermark it using a token, so that if it ever gets put through, an LLM on the other side, it's going to retain some sort of proof of ownership that is going to maybe create a way for creators to get paid. Now, I think that there's two ways to do this. One is regulation and collective bargaining. So, the unions and the government agree that if you're going to use that information in a large language model, then you got to pay the creators, and if you don't, it's illegal. And that's a totally valid way to do it. Another way is to use technology tools to ensure, rather than to hope for trust, to basically like guarantee trust and guarantee compensation as a result. So that's one thing. Another thing that creators are doing that's really interesting with tokens and NFTs is basically like using them as a way to sell more and rarer kinds of collectibles that fans can buy. Whether it's in the same way that people might buy a rare poster or T-shirt or what have you, trinket. They're looking for ways to support fans, and this is a new sort of economic frontier for them to do that. So I think that's sort of interesting too. But I think that the future is not something to be predicted; it's something to be achieved. And if anything, I'm hoping that this book is going to help ignite the curiosity and interest of a lot of smart people who are thinking about these problems, because I certainly don't have the answer to all of them. But in it, I see both the challenge and the solution.
I love it. So what are, if we can just wrap up here with, what are 2 or 3 steps or things that a business owner or investor can do to actually be looking at, how do I make it work for me instead of against me?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing they should do is to pre-order my book in massive volume.
I love it. Okay. Number one, right. Get educated. We'll put that under the get educated.
Yes. education, number one. Number two would be personal use. So I think that it's, look, there's, as with anything, if you want to understand how a large language model works, use ChatGPT. Try it out. Use DALL-E. Get a feel for it. Understand its abilities and limitations. Open up a MetaMask wallet, like a wallet. Buy a crypto asset. Buy a stablecoin. If you have kids, send them some money. They probably already have a wallet. Do you employ someone? Maybe you've got a housekeeper, a nanny. They're probably using it to send money home overseas, which is at least true in Toronto where I live. So I think personal use is a precondition to understanding for any new technology. And the more we use it, the more we understand it, the less we fear it, is my opinion. And then the third thing would be, start now. The best time to learn about generative AI and blockchains was probably 10 years ago, but the next best time is today. So don't delay your journey. Get started.
I love it. I love it. The book is Web3, Charting the Internet's Next Economic and Cultural Frontier. Alex Tapscott, it's been a privilege and honor hearing you. I do want to know more, so I'm very interested. This is an amazing frontier for business, for investors. And just remember, when we get this kind of education and we really start to understand what's possible out there, we're always going to make way more money and pay way less tax. And we'll see everybody next time.
You've been listening to the Wealth Ability Show with Tom Wheelwright. Way more money, way less taxes. To learn more, go to wealthability.com.
That's his slogan. That's his punchline. Make more money, pay way less taxes. Nigga.
How many of you pay taxes? Raise your hand. Thank you.
What a question.
And how many of you would prefer not to pay taxes? Raise your hand.
Hey, that's pretty funny.
Thank you. And how many of you know somebody who cheats on their taxes so they don't pay taxes? Raise your hand.
So they got this nigga
Thank
doing
you.
it manually.
I'm Tom Wheelwright. I'm here to tell you today, you don't have to cheat.
So the barricades on the side of the road, they had this guy running manually to bring them, to move them out the way. And then they had this truck. They had this big ass, looked like a rake. It shifts, so it grabs them and it throws it from the left all the way to the right. Meanwhile, this guy's running from barricade to barricade. Whoever created that fucking panel thing, genius. I'm tired of running. Fuck that. We need to create something to be more efficient. Because this is a whole goddamn shift if you think about it. I'm driving and all these barricades have somebody put it. I know they got efficient ways too. I've seen people with cones. I've never seen it with a barricade, but they got like a crew. And they got somebody strapped. Look at these guys. This is old school shit. He's sitting on the back of the bed and he just brings it out. But I've seen people strapped and and they always create a more efficient way. That's what we do as humans.
In order to not pay taxes. Now, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, heart of Mormonism. And I spent, as a result, 2 years as a Mormon missionary knocking on doors of all places, Paris, France. Now, I was very successful as a Mormon missionary. In 2 years, I converted 2 people. So I got used to rejection. In fact, you could say that was really the start of my entrepreneurship training. Because if you can't handle rejection, you'll never be successful as an entrepreneur. Now, for the last 35 years, I've dedicated my life to learning and studying the tax law. I have a master's of tax degree from the University of Texas at Austin. I developed and taught courses to thousands of CPAs and accountants when I was in the National Tax Department of Ernst & Young. I taught hundreds of masters of tax students as a professor at Arizona State University. have taught thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs and investors like yourself around the world how to permanently reduce your taxes. Now, as I travel around the world, I hear the same thing every place I go. You can't do that here. I'm going, seriously? I'm a nice guy. I travel halfway around the world to teach you how to permanently reduce your taxes, and you tell me you can't do that here? Well, let me tell you, look around. How many of you know somebody who's doing that here, not paying taxes? How many suspect that there are some who are doing it legally even? Raise your hand. The reality is,
It's happening.
it's up to you on whether or not you legally pay taxes. How many of you are willing to learn how to make more money and pay less taxes as an entrepreneur? Raise your hand. You're in the right place. So there's a reason that people tell me around the world, you can't do that here.
They don't know.
And it's because of how they earn their money. Remember, there are 4 ways you can earn money. You can go to school and get a job and earn it as an employee. Or you can go to school, even more school, become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, and be a specialist or a small entrepreneur. Or you can be a big entrepreneur, a big business owner. Or you can earn it as a professional investor, a true entrepreneur. Now, interestingly enough, as I travel around the world, and it doesn't matter if it's Santiago, Chile, if it's Sydney, Australia, if it's Johannesburg, South Africa, or San Francisco, California, what I find is the tax rates are approximately the same depending on how you earn your money. So on average, around the world, if you earn your money as an employee, you're going to pay about 40% in taxes. Now, if you're going to then become a specialist, get even more education, and earn your money as a specialist, small entrepreneur, you're actually going to pay even a higher tax rate, 60% on average. Now, as you move, if you can move over here to the big business owner, the big entrepreneur, you can actually reduce your tax rate to 20%. But here's the magic. If you can move down here to being a professional investor, a true entrepreneur, you can actually reduce your tax rates to 0. Now, here's what happens with most people. They go to school and get a job. And to make even more money, they become a specialist, like a doctor or a lawyer. Or they go, I'm going to go to an entrepreneurship program. Most entrepreneurship programs around the world, in fact, every other entrepreneurship program besides EDP, the goal is to take you from here to here. Are you kidding me? In other words, the goal is to increase my tax rate? That's crazy. Why would you ever do that? Your job is to not go from here to here. If you really want to reduce your tax rates, you really want to become wealthy, you have to go from here to here first. But then, as we teach in EDP, you have to go from here to here. And ultimately, you want to get to a 0 tax rate and ultimate wealth and be the ultimately true entrepreneur. You have to come down here. Now, let me give you an example of this. Here are a couple of high-profile people. You may recognize them in a couple of different of these quadrants of how they earn their money. Watch.
Or maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So if he's paid zero.
Did you hear that? Because he's smart. Donald Trump pays zero tax because he's smart. So why would anybody want to come over here and stop here? This is Hillary. Now, I'm not for Trump or Hillary. I'm just telling you, Hillary, she's an attorney. She's a smart attorney. She's in a 60% tax bracket. That's all she's ever known. Of course, she's in a high tax bracket. And of course, Trump is in a zero tax bracket. In fact, it would absolutely shock me if Donald Trump paid any taxes. He would have to have the worst tax advisors on the planet to pay any taxes because he lives over here. Why in the world would you want to live over here and stay small when you can live over here and pay lower taxes and make even more money? Now, don't want to leave anybody out here, so think about who's over here. This is our Mr. Obama. Great guy.
Paying about 40.
When he ran for president, he ran against a fellow by the name of Mitt Romney. Romney lives over here. Romney paid 13% tax. Obama, he said he paid 30% tax. It was actually pretty low for an employee. But Obama's only known employment. So if all you know is here or here, then of course you can't do it here. But if you can get over here, which is your job in EDP is to move from here to here. And when you do that, you can pay zero taxes. There's a reason that people don't want to go from here to here. And it's a single four-letter word.
Risk.
Fear. They're scared to death of moving from here to here. What are they scared to death most? They're scared to death of an audit. See, over here, these people rarely get an audit. These people get audits all the time. In fact, every year, I guarantee Donald Trump's business gets audited every single year by two different organizations, by the financial auditors and by the tax authorities. These people are scared to death of an audit. Maybe because they're cheating, probably because they're not used to it. See, you don't have to have a financial statement over here. You can live off of an income statement. You don't have to have a balance sheet. You don't have to have a statement of cash flows and all these other financial statements. Over here you do. You can't operate over here without a financial statement. You can't operate over here without an audit. So these people love an audit. It serves them. It's like going for a checkup with the dentist or the doctor. This is a good thing. You know where you are. You may be afraid of it. You may not like the process of it, but it's a good thing. That's why these people love being audited and know they're going to be audited every year. These people are scared to death. So it's true. Some people can't do it here. If you're stuck in the E as an employee or self-employed, you're not going to be able to do it here. The people who can do it are the people who are willing to move over here and over here. And with the right team around you, with the right instruction around you, you don't have to be afraid of this. Because remember that the real purpose of the tax law in your country is to provide incentives to business owners and investors. It's the reason for the law in the first place. The law would be 3 pages if it weren't for that. And it's thousands of pages to give these incentives to the business owners and investors. It's simply a matter of sit back, learn things that you don't know. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. These people aren't afraid of making mistakes. That's why they don't mind an audit. These people tend to be scared to death of making a mistake. There's no reason to fear as long as you do it legally. You get the education, you put the team around you. then the government is more than willing to be your partner. They'll contribute up to 40% for every investment you make. And it doesn't matter if it's real estate, energy, or business. Remember, the government wants you to create employment. So you partner with the government to create employment. And when you do that, the government gives you tax benefits. Or the government wants you to build real estate. They want you to build commercial properties. They want you to build residential properties. So they give you huge tax benefits. We call it depreciation or cost recovery. Huge tax benefits for building that real estate. The government wants you to use debt in your real estate and your business. So the government gives you tax breaks for using debt for your real estate and for your business. If you're over here, the government doesn't give you any tax breaks for debt, only when you move over here. But the government wants you to succeed. See, the tax law is set up to help you become more wealthy, but you have to do what the government wants you to do. When you do, you make more money, you pay less tax, and you never have to lose sleep at night. Thank you.
Mic drop, nigga. Mic drop. Today tax day.
How many of you pay taxes? Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you out there. How many, if you had the choice legally to not pay taxes, would rather not pay taxes? Raise your hand. Even more. That's really interesting. And how many of you know somebody that you suspect doesn't pay their fair share of taxes because they cheat? Raise your hand. Oh, and then all of them go up. I got it. So I want to thank particularly Ryan Moran, Capitalism.com, the whole team here. Can we give them a big round of applause, please? I mean, what a great event, right? Great event, great people, great speakers. Jeff was fabulous, and as they all are. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in the heart of Mormonism, Salt Lake City, Utah, literally the very heart of Mormonism. And so when I was 19 years old, I was expected to spend 2 years of my life serving a mission, which I did very gladly, was happy to do so. And it was pretty interesting because, you know, my buddies in high school, we were all thinking, because Salt Lake, right, everybody's Mormon, right, almost. And so we're all talking about where we want to go. And, you know, people say, well, you know, I'd really like to go to South America, they're so warm and friendly. Or, you know, I want to go to, you know, Sweden with those beautiful blondes, or, you know, so forth. And they sent me to Paris. And Paris is my favorite place on earth. It's absolutely beautiful. It's also probably the least likely place that you're going to sell Mormonism to Catholics. First week I'm there, somebody slugs me and said very not politely, no thanks. What I learned there, though, is what every entrepreneur has to learn first. I learned all about rejection. And, right? How many here have learned about rejection being an entrepreneur? Right? If you can't take rejection, you might as well stop right now, go back and get a job. So from that 2 years experience, which taught me so much about selling Mormonism to Catholics and working with people, I spent the next 2 years getting my degree in accounting from the University of Utah and bachelor's of accounting, and then I went to the University of Texas where I got my master's of tax in accounting, the University of Texas, Hook 'em Horns, yes, out there. And from there, I spent the next 7 years with a small accounting firm called Ernst & Young, one of the largest firms in the world, including 3 years in their national tax office. Now, I was there the last time we had major tax reform, which was 1986, and that's a very interesting time. And what I did there was I actually helped write the manuals and the courses to teach the CPAs around the country how to explain the law. Then from there I moved to Phoenix. In the Phoenix office, was in charge of the real estate tax practice in Phoenix. And from there I went into a Fortune 500 company where I was the in-house tax advisor and got very proficient in the state and local area. Sales tax became a very big specialty of mine. And so Arizona State University came to me and asked if I would create a course on multi-state income and sales tax, which I taught for the next 14 years. Once I left the Fortune 500 company, I had a short stint in another CPA firm. That did not go so well. That was not a good fit. And after 7 months, actually, I was fired. That was Price Waterhouse. And once you've been fired, you get to think a lot about what do I really want. And what I decided was I really loved working with entrepreneurs. Because I saw entrepreneurship as a path to freedom, right? No more bosses, nobody telling you what to do, and that path I saw it as that path to freedom, and I wanted to work with people who wanted that path. So I decided to start a CPA firm. I started from scratch, and I wanted to start one that would bring really high-level tax advice to the entrepreneur, because the big accounting firms, which we're now at the Final Four now, right? Ernst & Young and that group, no longer after the 1990s, no longer served the entrepreneur. They were focused very much on the big Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies. So from there, so I started the CPA firm. We grew into a firm that was an international firm worldwide, and we were serving clients in all 50 states and in 30 countries. And I decided, we talked about, we decided we need to get bigger because there are more people out there that we need to serve. So we began developing a network of CPA firms, which is now under the brand of Wealthability. And so we have a network of tax-free wealth advisors around the U.S. right now. Now, the last few years, as Ryan alluded to, I've spent a lot of time with my friend Robert Kiyosaki, and we travel around the world. We were in Australia last year, 3 different cities, and we were in South Africa, and this next year we're in Europe and in Asia. And it's really fascinating because the audiences are always fantastic, just like here in Dallas, just like in Austin last year. The audiences are fantastic.
I'm a firm believer that Robert Kiyosaki, Tom Wheelwright, Andy Tanner, Blair Singer, there's a couple more in the advisory team, but specifically Robert, Tom Wheelwright, Ken McElroy, I believe they have, the reason a lot of people right now are successful is because the foundation they laid. I believe they have, I mean, everybody is giving them their flowers, but I still think they're underrated. I think what they've done is as powerful as the system. And that's powerful. What do I mean? The system is a bunch of policies, rules, regulations, habits that people have grown to follow. And Tom Wheelwright taught me something years ago. He said taxes could either work for you or against you. So I got to thinking, and I understand where he's coming from. That's why there's such a big divide between the rich and the poor, because of that gap, that understanding, or lack thereof, I should say. One person hates taxes while somebody else absolutely appreciates it. But why? That's the question we need to not only ask, but we need to find an answer to. Why do some people like taxes while others absolutely despise them? I'll tell you why. I'll pour my drink. Because some people have an understanding of tax law, and if it's not full competency in it, at the very least, someone on their team does. Someone is well positioned to be incentivized from the tax law versus penalized. What are we talking about here? Let's go back to the basics. Well, as we know, and he used Obama as an example, he was taxed at 30%, which is low. And I can see why. There was some incentives. There was something that he had an advantage over the masses. But most people, in fact, I want you to, in the chat below, I want you to write, or in a comment, I want you to write what tax bracket, or how much do you think you're taxed? What percent do you think you're taxed? And I don't even know the right number, but I believe it's 40. Should have waited a little bit to let it hit home. But we in this bitch. Ha! So 40%. Most Americans are paying about 40%, 35-40% in taxes. That means that almost 50% of the income that you work for is given back. So technically, if you think about it from a net perspective, if you make 50K a year, technically, you're making what? 25. Or maybe a little more because it's not 50. It's 40%, so 50K, I don't know what the number of 40% of 50. Times 40%, 20K. 20K in taxes. So that means you keep 30. And logic would say fuck it, I need more money, I need to work more. The more you work, the more taxes they take. And what Tom Wheelwright, from what I'm understanding, what he's teaching is not about making more money. It's about thinking about how do you save as much money as you can where you are with the amount that you currently make. It doesn't matter if you're at, in fact, it's actually recommended to figure this shit out sooner than later, because it's all about foundation, it's all about position. What am I talking about? Well, most people learned, or me, I learned what an entity was at the age of 25, 26. I learned this stuff late, super delayed. Not because I am a little slow. But I know for a fact, if a motherfucker was teaching me this in the 4, 5, 7 hours, 8 hours that I was in school, sitting down, cramming pointless information, I'm pretty sure I would have had a decent awareness. I would have had awareness at the very least of this stuff. But that's a whole nother topic. So it's all about position. What am I talking about? Well, most people, they go to school, and the ones that take it to the high level, the ones that take it to the next level, they end up falling into a higher tax bracket. Go figure. Yeah, they make more, and they're more macho or machete relative to the brokies around them, but are they really? Because if an employee makes more money, he's being taxed more. And for those that don't know, I don't know, I mean, you have to know, right? It's like, y'all know when y'all work that overtime, you're like, okay, I made more money, but damn. These people that are making 6 figures and above, yeah, they're making money, more money gross, but net? Bro, yes, they have more money than you, but they're still paying a significant amount more in taxes. And one would argue, is like, well, so what? You know, be grateful for the opportunity to have the lifestyle and live this life in America, which I do agree. I am absolutely grateful for the opportunity to live here. I'm grateful that I was born in this country. But that doesn't mean that I should be okay with giving 40% of my income to someone else. And not by my choice. Forced. I'm not gonna have to, I don't have to fucking agree to that and say, oh, fuck it. Fuck you. Especially when the reason for that is ignorance. Lack of education. Especially when I trusted blindly at a young age my parents, education system, naively just walked in and said, well, these people are older than me, I just have to trust, I have to believe, I have to listen to them. Little did I know they didn't know shit. They've been hustling. So, position. How do you position yourself to take advantage of the tax law? As I said earlier, taxes could either work for you or against you. And I give shout out to Tom Wheelwright. I've given it before and I'll say it again. I remember, you know, in him bringing that to my awareness, I was deep into psychology and understanding the mind and wanting to improve from an internal perspective. I wanted to be the best human in the world. The best human from being the first human to know himself to the greatest that nobody's ever understood themselves. I'm talking about self-awareness to its max. To the point where nobody's ever reached. I'm talking about the best human from an internal perspective, not no physical, not the greatest YouTuber, not the greatest musician. I'm talking about the best human to operate that no human has ever understood from the internal then outside. I wanted to maximize the fuck, fully use and optimize the hell out of my human ability. One would argue I haven't, you know, I'm doing one would argue, or at least would debate on my progress. Fuck it, we in this bitch. So I would ask myself, after listening to that, you know, taxes could either work for you or against you. I would say, how could I have my mind work for me? Because at that point, I was aware enough to know my mind was working against me. I learned that there was a great book by Maxwell Maltz. The book is titled Psycho-Cybernetics. And that book changed my life. Just by being aware. I didn't study it. I didn't write everything down. In fact, I didn't even apply all of the exercises in the book. But awareness, to me, awareness is step one. There's more to it. Once you're aware, game on, nigga. The console has started. Kick off, launched. You know what I mean? Like, once you become aware, that's when things really begin. That's when shit really starts. You know, that's when the rubber hits the road. That's where shit starts happening. But not easy. That's where you gotta double down. You gotta sink your teeth in. You gotta learn more. You gotta understand what you've now just become aware of. So Psycho-Cybernetics brought me to the awareness of how the mind works, and in those two things, I thought to myself, I said, how can I have my mind work for me? How can I have my mind work for me? Because I knew that my thoughts were on default negative. My mind was on default negative. What am I talking about? Who's ever just, you know, even as you drive, I remember years ago, I would drive and I would just think about everything that just happened, complain, mad, fucking arguments that I had with a stupid ass bimbo, a 304. Just calculating situations, like how the fuck trying to figure out situations and figure out problems trying to figure out solutions to problems that no longer existed. They've already passed. Low level shit. That was my default thought. That was my default mind. And I would ask myself, how could I have my mind work for me? How? How the fuck could I have my mind work for me? And shout out to Robert Kiyosaki. That how could I have my mind work for me is another reason why I began figuring this shit out. Because prior to, why is this guy trying to, nigga, you not gonna pass me, bro. Let me, you not gonna pass me. I'm just too raw. I'm not in a semi like you, bro. I give it gas and my shit moves. So how could I have, alright, I am, my bad, bro. My bad. I am going 65 on the 70. My bad. Let me get on. Should be going 75. And shout out to Robert Kiyosaki giving me that mindset of how could I have my mind work for me. Because before, I would simply complain. I would simply sit in why? Why the fuck? Why don't I get to live that lifestyle? Why can't I be rich? Why can't I afford the nice J's? Why can't I go on the beach on a Monday? Even though I'm not a beach dude, that was a shitty example. Why can't I buy the best BMX bike? Why can't I get that Rari? And here's what I found out. I found out that shitty questions lead to shitty answers. If I had a mic, I'd drop it. Shitty questions lead to shitty answers. But again, my analytical mind, I said, okay, well, then that just means that quality questions leads to quality answers. And that's why I'm forever grateful for Robert Kiyosaki, not just for the connections he's put me on, not just for the understanding, awareness of the financial terms and where I'm at, but for helping me to ask myself the right questions. I'd like to thank him personally before, and if I never get to do it in person, I'm thanking you right now. Thank you, Robert Kiyosaki. I gotta, I can only look at the camera for a little bit, good not, nigga drive. But thank you, bro. Because by me asking how can I then began, again, shitty questions lead to shitty answers. Why am I not successful? Why am I always broke? Why do I have to live in the hood? Why am I so it's gonna lead to shitty answers. And you'll find out why, but you're not gonna get the solution. You're gonna get a shitty answer. You wanna know why you're not wealthy? Because you don't know some stuff. You wanna know why you're unhealthy? You're not eating right, you're not working out. That's the wrong question. Because even if you do know that, okay, now you know. Now what? That's as far as you go. You found out the reason, and that's the question you're asking. Bravo. You got your fucking answer. Now what? Bro, what the fuck is this, man? Oh shit, I don't know what's going on, but we gonna have to, I just don't know what I did. But I think I fucked up. Took a risk and I took a good it was a 50-50 and I guessed right. So by asking, don't catch it back up. 35 South. We stayed on 35 South Austin. We in West Virginia in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wild and wonderful. Woo! I got rejected by some cute shot my shot. She was like, no, I got a boyfriend. Your boyfriend ain't nigga like me though. I could have rebutted a little bit, but I was like, you know what? I kept it on a positive note. Anyway, back on topic. So, congratulations. You got the answer to your shitty ass question. Why you're not unhealthy is because you're not doing XYZ. But is that really what you want to know? Is that really what you want? Was to know the reason? Because most of us know the reason. And then just take it a step further. After you get the reason, don't you want to change it? Isn't that the goal? To fucking change, to get the solution, whether it's health, money, relationships, finances, whatever. Isn't the goal to change, to improve? How do you do that? How? And that's the question that has changed my life. It started with how. Started with why, graduated to how, and I would ask myself, you know, when you're just thinking, or most people, I think outside of communicating in my head, I be thinking all day. Some people are like, duh. Some people used to talk shit about me. Oh, you overanalyze things. Okay. You overthink things. So what, you don't think? What the fuck, bro? Like, people are weird. So what are you doing throughout the day? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm thinking. You? What are you doing, motherfucker? What are you doing? So, they would say that, anyway, I would think, I'm like, all right, throughout the day as I'm thinking, I would ask myself that question. And I sometimes gravitate to complain, but then I would stop it inside. I would stop it. I'm like, no, how can I? And I would change my mind, my questions to why, to how can I, to how could I improve? How could I become a better person? How can I help somebody because of this? Who can I become? How can I become the better person? Who must I be? How could I provide more value? How can I have my mind consistently work for me? That's something I used to say all the time. And then I graduated to saying that as an affirmation. My mind consistently works for me. How could I have my mind consistently works for me? My mind consistently works for me. And then I created an affirmation. Here's the how. I created an affirmation. The answer came. Quality questions, quality answers. The answer came. And I created an affirmation. And I combined all my education, the high state of mind that I learned from Tony Robbins. So I made sure, at first I created affirmations on a low level, like in my room, quiet. And I listened to it. I was like, this is ass. So then I took a jog. And then I did my affirmations. And I would go to sleep to my affirmations. My mind consistently works for me. I do not chase bitches. I do not chase women. They chase me. They run a mile for me. They run 10 miles for me. I don't chase these 3 or 4s. They chase me. Money works hard for me. I created these affirmations and more. I'm healthy. My mind consistently works for me. I travel wherever the fuck I want. I'm in control of my life. Mind control. I love education. I love financial education. I'm constantly improving. I'm consistently becoming a better person. I began listening to my own affirmations, and I would play it from my phone. I would record it, put it in a playlist, put it on repeat, and just let it run. And that was the answer to my how. I found out how. Just recently, I was listening to a module, and his name is Josiah Grimes. He's in partnership with Jamil Damji, and they're real estate, to me, real estate moguls. Not because, and I'm sure there's people out there that are financially bigger, but you got to bring some people with you, man. You got to share some of that sauce. you know? So in one of these modules, I graduated from asking how to changing my affirmation. Again, the next phase of, you remember when I said I go back and I think and I ask myself, how can I? Now I'm asking myself, why? Why am I so rich? Why am I so healthy? Why am I so successful? Why do women keep chasing me? And here's the thing. I'm going to give you guys the logic behind it, and I'm going to be my own guinea pig, motherfuckers. But at the same time, I'm bringing y'all with me. The ones that want to learn, they going to learn. The ones that don't, archive. How did you do it? Archive. Go back to September 7, 2023. Archived. Right? So why do I ask myself that question? Because shitty questions lead to shitty answers. Now, quality questions lead to quality answers. Guys, this is so subtle but powerful. You're gonna have to listen to this a couple times to really understand what I'm saying here. This some deep shit. This deeper than them guts I was in last night. Deep. That bitch still think about me. I know it. I know she got me in her mind. I'm rolling through her mind. Nigga always on the grind. Now she knows she missing out. I don't really give a fuck. I'm a goat. Bitches really thought I was a joke. I just wanna smoke cock. I just wanna smoke. That's what I meant to say. Pause. Smoke cock. But I try to say it, yeah, fuck y'all. I try to say it in a way that, but it just ended up backfiring. I just wanna smoke. But it didn't sound right. Smoke. Pause, just in case. So, I graduated to asking myself the right questions. So by asking why, one of the most powerful questions in the world, which fuck you parents that are shitty parents and don't take the time to properly answer that question. But why is one of the most powerful questions if you ask it the right way. Before I would ask it, but I was asking in the negative context. The world is on a spectrum, on an even spectrum. How you dial in the direction in which you dial. Look at the world as a temp gauge. Still a gauge, but you choose the direction in which you're still on that same plane, but you choose the direction in which you control the temperature, either hot or cold is what I'm saying, but it's still the same thing. A horrible analogy. I've heard it before, I just didn't master it, so just bear with me. But the point is that by me now asking these questions like why am I so successful? Why am I so smart? Why am I so intelligent? Why am I connecting with positive people consistently? Why? Why am I so rich? Why am I so deserving of this? Of these healthy relationships? Of a beautiful, wonderful family? Of women that come to me, they gravitate to me and respect me? Why am I so deserving of that? And I gratitude. Thank you, universe. Those two things, powerful. Why? Because, and I'm gonna use the example that Josiah Grimes gave, and then I'm gonna wind down. So the example Josiah gave was, when you are in class, when you're taking a test, rule of thumb, I didn't know this till late in the process, but rule of thumb is, if there's a question that stumps you, You don't stick around. You know, you got an hour to take the test. You got 100 questions. You don't fucking sit there and just fucking waste 5 minutes, 7-10 minutes trying to figure it out, reading it over and over and over. No, you read it 2-3 times, maybe 5 max. Move on to the next. Why? Because what's happening is your subconscious mind is working on that problem. Your subconscious mind is working on the problem. So while you go on to the next problem, your subconscious mind is actually finding the solution to the previous one. And he pretty much said you got to utilize the gift of your mind and trust it. And keep working, keep pushing. Some call it faith. Some call it higher power. Some call it infinite intelligence. Let that nigga work. You keep pushing. So I started to utilize the power of the subconscious mind, the power of asking quality questions, the power of affirmation, the power of visualizing and believing and knowing what I want. And I would combine all these lessons that I learned from Tony Robbins to Robert Kiyosaki to Tom Wheelwright, Josiah, Jamil, and countless others. I'm not gonna go on a giving credit where credit is due tangent, because that could be a whole nother hour within itself. But if I could leave you with one thing is quality questions lead to quality answers. Thank you.